She didn't cry out when she fell. Instead, she just looked up at me from the living room floor, her small arm bent at an unnatural angle, her mouth slightly open in shock. That moment is etched into my memory more vividly than any other. It was the last instant when everything still felt real before it all unraveled. They rushed her to the emergency room, telling me it was just a routine fracture, and that she'd need a cast. I held her other hand gently, whispering that everything would be all right. Then the doctor came in. He studied the X-ray quietly, his face unreadable until a brief flicker crossed it. A subtle twitch at the corner of his mouth, a soft breath. Then he called another physician over. "There's something impossible inside her," he said. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. But when he turned the screen toward me, I saw it. A tiny metal rod lodged deep inside her upper arm bone. She had never had surgery before. She was only 5 years old. Beside me, my wife's hand shook. Her face drained of color, and I heard her inhale sharply, barely audible. That was the moment the truth hit me. We'd been married 6 years. I thought we had a solid foundation. Not fiery or passionate, but steady. We shared goals, raised our daughter, laughed over wine, argued over chores, and made up before falling asleep. She stayed home with our child while I worked overtime, building something for our family. I missed some milestones, the first steps, the ballet recital, but I always came back. Or so I believed. Then I started noticing things. A locked phone, an unexplained interest in therapy, long walks, deleted messages. I gave her space, telling myself she was just a tired mother who needed time alone. But the first real warning came 2 months before the fall, when our daughter started calling a man Uncle Nate. I had never heard that name before. "He's from Mommy's walks," our daughter said. When I asked my wife about him, she paused briefly before smiling and saying he was just a neighbor who jogged the same trail. I let it slide but kept watching. The X-ray confirmed something darker than infidelity. That metal rod wasn't new. The doctor said it had been there for at least a year, a surgical implant. But there was no surgery, no hospital visits, no stitches, no explanation. Only one thing. I waited until we were home, until our daughter was asleep in my arms, her cast wrapped tight, the painkillers making her limp and light as a memory. Then I asked my wife calmly what had happened. She didn't lie at first. She cried, admitting she was scared, that things had spiraled because I wasn't there. I pressed gently, and she told me everything. One night, our daughter had a fever while I was on a business trip. She passed out. My wife panicked and called Nate instead of me. He took them to a private clinic run by a friend of his, a doctor. There was no paperwork, no consent, no records, just implants. She hadn't thought I'd understand. She didn't even know what had been put inside our daughter. But I did. Nate worked in biotech. He led our /ND at a startup developing nano-tracking implants supposedly designed for children's medical safety. They had been using my daughter as a live test subject, and my wife had allowed it. I didn't confront him or raise my voice. Instead, I bought time. I told her I needed to think, that I wasn't going to report anything yet, that we needed to hold together for our daughter. Then I began to plan. I dug through every contract Nate's company had ever filed, examined their patents, and uncovered a hidden clause in their funding agreements forbidding live human trials during Phase 1. Violating that meant losing funding and possibly prison. Next, I submitted a quiet inquiry to the ethics board. I secretly gathered every document I could get my hands on, and then approached his investors through intermediaries. I hinted at a scandal developing, just enough to unsettle them. Within a week, they withdrew their support. But the final blow came when I framed the X-ray and slipped it, along with my daughter's birth certificate and a brief note that read, "She was never yours to test," into a manila envelope left on Nate's office desk. He unraveled. An investigation was launched, federal level. My wife was completely unaware until the day the agents showed up at both his and her door. He broke first, accusing her of coercion and forging my consent, claiming she brought our daughter willingly. He handed over my name, my address, everything. But by then, I had already quietly filed for divorce. She lost custody and everything else. When the court asked why I hadn't come forward sooner, I presented a medical record I had carefully fabricated to appear like a simple oversight. One showing that I only discovered the implant after an accident. My concern was documented, my innocence intact. Now my daughter sleeps peacefully upstairs. The implant was removed, and we keep it locked away in a sealed bag inside a fireproof box, a constant reminder of how deep betrayal can run, and how far I'm willing to go to protect her. People often wonder why I don't date, or why I seem distant and guarded. I just smile because they will never understand what it feels like to hold your child's arm while a doctor tells you someone implanted a device inside her. To watch the color drain from your partner's face, not from fear, but from being caught. She thought I was too passive, too gentle to notice or act. She was wrong. I didn't scream or lash out, I watched. And when the time came, I struck. Now my daughter is safe, and those who betrayed her are realizing some wounds don't bleed. They fester silently from within until there's nothing left.